Hey, stepmamas, welcome to the Stepmom Unfiltered podcast. This is your go to space for unapologetic, unfiltered conversations about the roller coaster ride of stepmotherhood. We're your hosts. I'm Adrienne.
And I'm Amelia. We understand that being a stepmom is like walking a tightrope in stilettos. So we're here to help you embrace the messiness, laugh through the craziness, and find strength in our shared experiences.
This podcast is more than just a series of episodes, it's a community for stepmoms to be real, raw, and unfiltered. Buckle up because we're about to embark on a journey of candid conversations, taboo topics, and expert insights.
This is the Stepmom Unfiltered podcast, your sanctuary for real talk and real solutions.
Welcome back to another episode of the Stepmom Unfiltered podcast. Today, we have a very special guest joining us to dive into a conversation about the intricacies of family dynamics and communication. Welcome, Amy.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here and to be with you girls again.
Yes, we're excited to have you. So, Amy Ambrozich is a blended family coach and strategist. Her background is in psychology and has multiple certifications in parenting education and step family dynamics. She has crafted specialized programming specifically for couples in blended family relationships through her coaching program, the Blended Family Blueprint. She provides her clients with the tools that need to prepare for and navigate through the challenges of step family life, relationships, and parenting with more ease. She also helps them uncover underlying issues and nurtures a united parenting approach, guiding them from uncertainty to confidence as they create a strong foundation for their step family success. So, before we dive into our conversation on step family communication, we have to ask, what's in your cup?
I've always got water with me.
You've always got water.
I love that. I love
All right,
that.
water's good. Water's
Yeah.
good.
All right,
I went
Amelia.
for coffee. I went for coffee tonight because it's been a long day. So
Love that. I also
coffee's
have
gonna keep me
coffee.
going.
Both my parents were coffee drinkers and I never picked it up. So, yeah, I've always got my water with me.
Oh, that's
I
so
will say
funny.
mine's decaf. So I'm not sure it does anything for energy, but probably just subconsciously.
There
And
you
I
go.
actually enjoy the taste of it. So good, good. So let's dive in. We want to talk about communication in step families, and we know that the reality is communication in any family can be challenging and in any relationship. But let's
Mhm.
start with what the unique hurdles are for step families. What do they face when it comes to effective communication?
Such a It's funny because I'm like, oh gosh, how do I summarize all of this in short snippets? Because this is something I teach, for 12 weeks. I believe that the uniqueness of a blended family is that you're not starting at the same point. Not everyone's starting from day one. The couple's not, they're
Mhm.
coming in from other marriages or other relationships. The kids, in a nuclear family, you start from day one with communication with your kiddos. Blended family, you might be coming in at year 5, year 12, year 17. So there's going to be that gap in the bridge, and that the kids are going to be like, why do I have to talk to you? My mom picked you, my dad picked you, and I doesn't mean I have to like you and talk to you. So I think that's really the crux of it, is just the fact that not everybody's starting from day one and building those natural bonds and natural relationships. So it does make communication harder because you have to learn to like each other and build those relationships together. And it can be, well, I'm preaching to the choir here, it can just be hard because everybody's coming in with a different attitude, coming into all of the conversations with a different attitude.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Sorry, that's striking. It's not striking a nerve. It's reminding me of when you're saying like you might come in at a different time, right? At year whatever and whatever. And while I did come in at year 2 with my stepdaughter, her mother's communication and the way they communicate at her house is
Mhm.
different than here. And so it's not always agreed upon the way that we communicate here with our kids and how we go about doing it,
Mhm.
and the way she does it. So that can cause some friction sometimes, and has even made my stepdaughter uncomfortable because she's not used to that type of communication where we sit down and, want to talk about feelings and all the things. So just interesting when you were saying that, because it's so true. Like those gaps really do create a bigger problem.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Not only that, but when you think about it, especially for stepmoms, they may hide some of their feelings towards their stepkids from their spouse because they're going to be, if I don't really love my stepkid, I don't want to tell my spouse I'm really not in love with your kid right now because they're being just a jerk. So, because that's then going to affect the communication with your relationship too. So then that starts building walls. And the more walls we build, trying to protect each other or spare each other, these feelings, or just, trying to ease our way into those relationships, but we're holding back on things, that's going to build more walls and really screw the communication up even worse.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really valid point, and that also builds some of the resentment that we talk about stepmoms having, and really anybody in a step family having. Resentment can be built by everyone, and that breaks down the communication. So we know that trust is a fundamental aspect of communication. What are some of your recommendations or suggestions for how trust can be built so that there can be effective communication?
Oh, that's such a good one. So trust with the kids. I always tell when I'm working with my couples, I tell my step parents in the couple, connect before you start correcting. So because you're not going to build a good relationship with that child if you're not connecting with them. And connecting can be anything from, doing one-to-one things with your stepchild to, depending on the relationship, it might just be you cheering from the sidelines and staying out of the fray of other things that are going on. So, but then when you become that other adult that's a supportive human being in their circle, that'll help them feel like they can trust you more. Doing one-to-one things with them, even if it's short, like 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there at the beginning, it's, building that know, like, and trust factor for this stepchild, for you as the step parent. The trust between the couple themselves, that definitely needs to be part of the conversation too. Like, what can I tell you? What shouldn't I tell you? You've both been through that where it's like, okay, do I tell him how rotten his kid has been today, or do I just, hold it? So we have to, make sure that our partner is willing to trust our vision of what we see is happening, because they may not see it in their kid, but as an outsider coming in, you may see something that your spouse doesn't see because, oh, that's just my kid. That's how they behave. Whereas the other person coming into the new relationship, they're like, is it, is this right? Am I reading this kid right? And I
Yeah.
think many of you have been through that too. But the trust factor too is we have to trust each other as a couple to say, here's where I'm struggling, as it might be as a step parent, or it might be, here's where I'm struggling, for your spouse dealing with their ex, and they're struggling, but they're trying not to bring that stress into your relationship. So we have to open those lines of communication and say, trust each other with, if I dump this on you, you're not going to throw it back at me. Like, you're going to be there to
Mm,
support me through it. We're going to walk through this hiccup together instead of being judged for it or being criticized for it. So it's that give and take for the couple too, that they have to open up those lines of communication and trust that their partner is going to have their back, which is a hard one sometimes, especially when there's all the fray and the, chaos outside of your relationship trying to
yeah.
knock on the door and bang in. So,
Yeah. I was going to say that is something that I think a lot of stepmoms do struggle with, is the trust, and like,
mhm,
especially when you're feeling insecure in your relationship and you've got, right, like, or not insecure in your relationship, but insecure in yourself, in your role as a stepmom,
yes.
right? Like it does make all of this other stuff quite challenging.
Well, and
Um,
I think you've touched on it a couple times now too, where it's like, when do you speak up and say something and when don't you? Because I don't think
Mhm.
most stepmoms' goals is to badmouth their stepkids to their partner or make them feel bad as a parent or make the stepkid feel bad. But at the same
Right.
time, you're learning when to speak up, what to share, how to share it. I mean, there's so many different aspects to it. And probably trying to do it without hurting anyone's feelings, but being solution focused and also not wanting to feel like you're disconnected in your own home or within
Mhm.
this new family unit that's been created.
I worked with a
I-
couple recently, and they were during the time that we worked together, they were engaged, and then they got married midway through our coaching time together. And one of the other trust factors that we had to work on was her trusting him to step into a fatherly role within, because she and her daughter were super, super tight. They were their own unit for such a long time. And it was work for me to get her to relax that little bit, so that and to trust that he's got his stepdaughter's best interest at heart too, because she's like, no, that's my kid. Like, yes, but that's now your child together. You guys are going to be raising this child together. And she had a hard time opening up that door for him and trusting the fact that he did have the best interest. And digging through, a lot of it came from her previous relationship. And that person was not a good dad, and did not have, the best interest of either her or the little girl in the relationship. And so she automatically had a wall up. No, this is my kid. I will do all of the things. And he's like, well,
Mhm.
then where's my place? So
Right.
we had to work on that trust issue, which was a really interesting process too. Just that opening up and trusting that your partner's there for all the right reasons. So yeah, there's so many things we could tear apart just with this one issue.
Well, sorry, that's just interesting that you're even talking about the stepdad having the more difficult time here, because we hear so often about stepmoms and all the stepmom struggles. And I think stepdads kind of maybe don't feel like they can speak up, like there is nowhere for them to go for help, like they don't necessarily know about these, different resources. So I just think it's interesting that you're bringing up, the stepdad and the challenges that he faced.
Well,
So good for them.
and
Yeah.
also, I know we've talked a little bit about this and not to take us off the communication topic, but I think the way that stepdads navigate these things is different than stepmoms, right? Just like dads and moms navigate things differently.
Absolutely.
Yes,
And
they
so
do.
it's I just think it's interesting that like I know in my own personal situation, what bothers my husband as a stepdad is very different than what bothers me as a stepmom, or what doesn't
Mm.
bother us, or what doesn't rile us up, or catch our attention, or even take notice of. And so
Mhm.
I just think it's fascinating to look at and to have the discussions. And to your point, Amelia, realize that um, we should talk about these things because we don't know if we don't have the communication.
Yeah, absolutely. And just, I wanted to circle back when you were talking about like, of course, a stepmom doesn't ever want to like attack their stepchild or, pick on them or anything like that. Like, when they notice something, they're generally trying to bring it up because of a concern or they have a suggestion or whatever. And I'll talk from personal experience. I think a lot depends on the approach that you take to having the conversation. Um, so learning number one, communication styles and all of that, right? And taking the right approach to having these very delicate conversations, because it is hard to have someone coming at you, talking to you about your child. I mean, I'm guilty of getting defensive when my husband has said something about my daughter, and I know he loves her like his own. Like, I know all of those things, but the minute he is critical in any way, I've got my guard up. Um, so I just think, and I have that awareness too, and I am working very hard on not not being like that and being more open to hearing what he's saying. But just in the approach that maybe a stepmom takes to when they do see something with the stepchild, um, you know, going about it the right way.
And at the right time too. One of the things I always
Mhm.
talk with my couples about is we need to talk about talk time. Like, when is your best time to have a conversation? When is his best time to have a conversation?
Yeah.
When can we do this together? Let's literally, and I have my couples pull out their calendars and schedule talk time in, and they think it's nuts at first, but then we're like, oh my gosh, if we don't do this, we're just going to keep blowing things off. So
Yep.
part of the communication is when, and not just how, but when are we going to do this too? So knowing each other's talk time, like, and I can tell you within our own marriage, I'm a morning person. Like I wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning with a million things I need to share with everybody. You know, my brain goes 100 miles an hour. My husband's more of an afternoon evening person. I cannot throw everything at him the minute he wakes up because he's like, I need a minute, need to have my breakfast. Let me go through my routine. And then he's good to go. But so we need to know the when for our communication for both ourselves and our partners, and when is the best time for us as a couple to have those conversations. And then I always suggest, all right, put it on the calendar like once a week or whatever. This is when we're going to have. And the other thing I have them do is have a whiteboard and just write things down as they come up throughout the week. And half the time, the majority of the things that are on the board by the time they get to Sunday to have their conversation, it's a non-issue at that point because everyone's calmed down and it's not a big deal. But just having that place where you can dump some thoughts and that, and know that we're going to sit down and have this conversation. I don't have to catch him as he's heading out the door. So it's the hows, it's the whens. But Amelia, I love what you said about, how are we going to approach your partner with this conversation and do it so gently that there's not a wall put up right away and, the pushback happens.
I
Super
love
important.
that. I love the idea of a whiteboard parking lot where you can be
Yeah.
listing things so that you're not, and I also think it helps you get it out, right? So you're not festering all
Yeah.
week holding, because everybody's different, right? Me, I would be holding on to it and I'd be building anger as the time goes on instead
Oh,
of
yeah.
calming down. It's like
Oh,
reverse
yes.
reaction. Okay. So
Me
we're all on the
too.
same
Yes.
page.
Yeah, me
Show of
too.
hands.
I think
Well,
the
and
other
that's
thing,
the thing is like, I know for me, like, I get more angry thinking that, like, wait a minute, he's not going to talk to me about this. Oh no, he's going to talk to me about this, right? Like, so
Right.
then I'm just getting more riled up thinking that like he's avoiding me and we're never going to have this conversation, and he better just wait because I'm gonna, you know.
Mhm. Yeah, I think the other thing is the where, right? Where do you have these
Mhm.
conversations? And making sure that, the kids aren't around or privy to the conversations, that they're adult conversations that are, not for little ears and
Mhm.
or not for bigger ears who get really curious in
Yeah,
those fun teen
not for the
years.
teenagers, but
Yeah.
also not in the bedroom. I always tell stepmoms,
No.
keep that conversation about the ex and all the things out of your bedroom. Your bedroom is such a private, special place. Like those
Yes.
conversations don't belong in there. Yeah.
Such good advice. Absolutely. I love
Mhm.
that. Yep.
Yeah. So I think it's safe to say conflict is inevitable in any family setting, not just step families. It just seems to
Yeah.
be very heightened in step families. So I'm curious, Amy, what advice or tips or tricks do you have to help step families and step couples maintain healthy communication, um, even during conflict?
Mhm. One of the techniques that I teach, I call it the filter. So, and it's got 3 steps to it. And when we're wound up about something, I ask people, okay, just take a breath, think about the filter. So, the top of the filter, the biggest part of the filter, is the stories I'm telling myself. And Amelia, you gave us a
Mm.
really good example. Like, oh, he thinks he's not going to talk to me about. Oh, we're talking about this. And oh, he thinks he's going to blow me off. He's not even thinking about this. He's got, he's at
You're
work and
right.
doing
He's
his thing. Yeah, not even
Yep.
thinking about it. So we need to think about the stories we tell ourselves because we can wind ourselves up and just make things so much worse than they need to be. The tighter part of the filter is the feelings. We get ourselves wound up and then we lock ourselves into those feelings. And so now I'm mad and I'm just going to stay mad until I'm not mad, and he thinks he's going to do that, and then we get all an attitude about everything at that point in time because we're locked into that cycle. So it's the stories we tell ourselves, the feelings that we have. And then the very smallest part of this filter, unfortunately, is the actual facts. What do I know for sure? And I
Mhm.
always have my couples stop and ask each other that question. Well, what do you know for sure? Because when we have to stop, we're like, oh, wait a minute. What do I know for sure? Well, I know that he was late coming home from work. That's literally all I know. There could have been an accident at the expressway. He could have been stuck at work. He might have had a conversation with his ex that went longer, but it was a good one. But I just don't know that. So I'm telling myself all of the awful things. So working through that filter and slowing ourselves down and taking that, take a breath, that kind of helps tremendously. Am I making a mountain out of a molehill? Is this really something that we need to get wound up about? With your step kids, one couple in particular I'm thinking of that I worked with not too long ago, I had to remind them that child's feelings is not even about you. You're thinking they're mad at
Yes.
you, and they are acting mad at you because you're an easy target. But stop for a second and ask yourself, is this even about me? Or is this kid struggling with something at the other parent's house and just coming here either beaten down or sad or frustrated or whatever? It might not even have anything to do with your existence at this point in time. It might just be that this kid is wound up about something else or is stressed about something else. And I think every parent can ask that question, whether you're a blended or not. Because if you're raising teenagers, good Lord.
Oh, yes. Heaven help you.
Yes. So thinking about things like that, the filter, slowing yourself down, and then just do some fact checking. Like, am I here? Is it what I think I hear you say is, or what I'm thinking that you're trying to tell me is, kind of assess those things and see if you're hearing your partner repeat that. Am I hearing you right? Or here's what I'm feeling. Help me sort through this with what you know. So those are some things that it's a matter of bringing the adrenaline down and having that conversation. Like these are going to be the things that kind of, okay, hold on. What are the steps we're going to do? Because when we have to go through that, we have to go through steps. It calms us down. We're not running through the emotions. It's like, okay, step by step, we're going to handle this. And Adrienne, you mentioned problem solving mode, getting into that mode instead of just being mad at each other mode, because that's a really easy place to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. Such good advice, especially the facts part of the funnel. We are on the unfiltered podcast, but I won't out anybody with a recent situation where maybe someone's mind ran wild with what might be happening or maybe didn't happen, but actually did happen. So I actually think, honing in on the what do we actually know helps us realize how little we really know. And we're letting our mind go to that place of telling ourselves stories that aren't based in reality or factual. And so I think that's just a really critical element of all of it. I also think when you talk about the step kids having other stressors in their life, they're humans too. And I think it's easy to forget that all kids
Yes.
have stressors. And I think step parents are easy targets because it's what we represent, not who we are. Right. So it could be
Yes.
that they're stressed about a test at school, which translates into I'm going to take it out on the easy target, which is stepmom, because I don't have the relationship I want to have with my mom. And so my stepmom represents something that's unresolved, and now I'm going to go direct my anger at her. And the reality is, our stepkids don't even realize they're doing this. It's
Yeah,
completely
it's not a
unconscious.
conscious. Yeah.
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 But we take it so personal. And I'll speak from personal experience. I mean, I take it very personal because I pour into and invest and love them like my own and want that relationship so bad that it's so easy to get defensive and take it personal and then lash out in response, which isn't the mature thing to do. But if we can recognize it and name it, then I think we can be in better control of it and respond differently to help the kids navigate what they're going through, which is really what it's about.
Yeah. And just to circle back to about what you were saying, but when you're having a conversation and you're saying to your partner, this is when you do this, this is how it makes me feel, or this is what I'm hearing. And I have found we've been doing that. And it's super powerful because my husband and had this conversation. It was a couple months ago. We were just on a drive to go pick something up, and we weren't fighting or anything. But I just brought up to him, when you do this, this actually makes me feel this. And he was like, oh my gosh, like that is not my intention at all. And like, this is what I meant. So I think too, like you said, like scheduling those not phone calls, time to like talk time. In moments where you're not in the middle of an argument or you're not heated, you're just like, this is something I should chat about. So like in those type of conversations, when you can approach it when no one is feeling super heightened and you just genuinely like having a conversation, I think people are a lot more receptive to hear what you're saying when they are not, being attacked. Right?
Yes,
But
absolutely,
it's
absolutely.
it's really helped my husband and I like to go into the conflict and know like, oh, when I do that, it actually makes her feel this way or vice versa, because we've had that conversation now. Um, yeah.
So Amelia,
Communication is important.
it is important. I love that you did that because one of the other methods I use, I call it the stoplight method. So the red light is, when this happens, this is how I feel. Can you not do that again? Or can we find a different way for that to happen? And you're wanting to stop something from happening again. So, I know there's been times where I've worked with couples and, one of them just will make like funny, haha, snarky remarks about their spouse in the room, just being joking and funny, but the spouse took it, to heart. It was embarrassed because, now I'm being made fun of in front of all of his friends kind of thing. So that red light is, when that happens, this is how I feel. Can we not do that again? So that red light, the yellow is I'm concerned about dot, dot, dot. I'm really concerned that this thing is happening. When can we sit down and work on resolving this issue? So it slows everybody down. It's a cautionary tale. I don't necessarily want it to stop, but we do need to figure out what's not right and figure out a better way to do it. And then the green light, which is the one I really, really want to encourage couples to do, and in all relationships, is that green light is I really love it when our family does this, or I really love it when you do this for me, because we are so quick to tell our spouses what they're doing wrong and criticize and get snarky. How often do we pour water on that plant and say, I really appreciate it when you do this, or that was so awesome that you did that for me the other day, or that you took my kid to do all of the school shopping because you knew that I really wasn't feeling it. It's those little things that we have to pick up and go, oh my gosh, that was so nice of you to do that, because that nurtures the relationship and it builds communication up even more. So
Right.
I love the stoplight method because it's like, okay, areas of concern, let's work on this, and let's really work on the green lights and do that with your kiddos too. If you notice the kids
Mm.
playing well together, or your stepchild's being kind to somebody, or just make an acknowledgement. You don't need confetti in a
Yeah.
parade, but just like, hey, that was really sweet of you that you did that. Some parents are like, "Oh, but we, red ribbon for everybody." No, we're just acknowledging the appropriate behaviors so that they repeat them. So,
Yeah.
and that builds up, then your kid feels good and will open up to you about some things too. So it's all about
Yeah, I
opening those
love
doors.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's so fun. And I'm seeing some confetti poppers in the future of some of our listeners. Not that I'm recommending it, because from personal experience, the cleanup it could last some
It
months.
lasts forever.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, that's
But
funny.
I love that. So something that's really relevant today is technology. It's all around us. It's in our hands constantly, nonstop. We're surrounded by it, and it's really transformed communication, and I think added some complexities and challenges to communication. Um, do you have any recommendations for how step families utilize technology to enhance communication instead of creating pitfalls and challenges around it, or any cautionary tales around, you know, around not using technology for certain communication?
yeah, that's really good. I think we can take this at a couple of different levels. I think as a couple, you need to be on the same page for what technology the kids are going to have access to, when, what ages, what apps. I'm working with a couple right now, and they're working with his ex, and they're negotiating and navigating this. The kids are trying to think. The kids are just in that process of starting to use their phones. They're in middle school, things like that. They've held the kids off this long, but now they're like, okay, this is really, it's getting to the point where we want them to have some kind of communication. But So within your own home, and if you're co-parenting with the other parent, the dual household situation, as much as you can get on the same page for those topics, that's awesome. And think about, this isn't necessarily a control situation. You're like, well, I get to
Yeah.
dictate. No, you get to dictate. That's not accomplishing anything. The main question needs to be what's best for these kids right now. So when we're talking about technology and communication and all the social media and all that, what's best for these kiddos right now? And if there's some issues, I've had some couples who, they have some rules at their home and the other parent has rules at their home, and they do not co-parent well, and it's parallel parenting. And sometimes you just need to wash your hands of it because it's not worth the argument, because you're not going to get anywhere anyway. So for the kiddos, that's one thing. Co-parenting dual households. I like to recommend setting boundaries if you're dealing with someone that's a little more high conflict, and say, look, you can text me between 9 a.m. and 8 p.m. Anything that comes after 8 p.m., unless someone's on fire or dead, I don't want to hear about it. And I will get back to you in the morning when I see it again, because we want our evenings to be calm in our home. We don't want the chaos. We don't want your stress. I don't need you texting me 132 times about the dentist appointment that we talked about 4 times already. So,
Yeah.
setting those boundaries. And if your ex continues to text, just don't respond. And I know that's hard, but you got to think about, well, what is that happening, filtering into our home? What is that causing me now? Now I'm stressed and worked up, and then I'm going to be mad at the kids or whatever, because I'm actually not mad at the kids. I'm still mad at, the ex.
Yeah.
So setting
Yeah.
boundaries helps a lot, but really being on the same page within your home for all of this stuff helps. And that's a vision to the values conversation too with my couples. What do you see this as? What works, what doesn't? What values, are set for your family? And if communication face to face is an important thing, then that's what we're going to encourage and work on more. And the phones may have to be, I recommend a charging station for everybody at 9 o'clock at night. Everybody plugs phones and everything else in a place outside of the bedrooms. No technology in the bedrooms if you want those kids to get sleep at night. So those are just some of the parameters that I tend to see happening with my couples as I work with them. So, and I'm seeing smirks from both of you, so I'm dying to hear
Oh,
what you.
I just, I've got teenage girls. The phone is just, it's a thing.
It's a part of their
Um,
body.
It is. And I'm guilty too. My phone, I communicate with it, I work on it, I do all the things. So like I often have my phone as well.
Mhm.
It is a concern though, like the amount of, scrolling that happens at night. And, you
Mhm.
said you have, recommend like phones go up at 9 o'clock. And I'm picturing Emma just being like, what are you doing?
Mhm.
I am not participating in this. Um, yeah, it's such a challenging topic. And then when you have a stepchild in another home, like you said, with different rules and different expectations, and like, how do you navigate that? It's such a challenge. It's honestly a new world. Like, this is a new thing, right? Like, no
Yes.
one's ever had to navigate parenting children with these things attached to their hands, with the world at their fingertips 24 hours a day.
Mhm.
Like, it's just kind of unprecedented, and we're all just kind of figuring it out as we go along.
Yeah,
Um,
that's
yeah,
so true.
it's
Well, and I don't think there's necessarily a right or wrong. I think it's like you said, Amy, what's right for that kid in that moment, which will
Mhm.
change as they age and they're in different stages of life. I mean, to your point about the charging station, we do have charging stations. Each of our kid has their own cubby with all their plugins for all their devices because, they have them all. And when they were younger, it was definitely like there was limited time. They had all the parental restrictions on.
Mhm.
We still have parental
Yeah.
restrictions on for teens, but they also had to put them away at a certain time. That time has changed as they've gotten older and are nearing adulthood,
Right.
because we also
Sure.
need to prepare them for how to manage that without somebody micromanaging it for them. So
Yeah.
we've gotten less restrictive as they're getting older. So I do
Yeah.
think it's important.
Yeah.
I think it's a balance, and
Absolutely.
I don't think we have the magic answers or a magic wand to have the magic answers, but
Mm-mm.
um
No, but like you said, it's, what works in your home, or what do you want? What are your values? What do you want in your home? I know for a period of time we were doing no screens on Sunday. So you were welcome to do anything other than look at your phone.
Mhm.
And for a while it worked really well because we have iPhones. So like I was able to control screen time for the girls' phones because we had given my stepdaughter a phone that we had control of.
Mm.
I was able to control all of that. So Sundays, it's like, yeah, too bad you can text, but you couldn't be scrolling on anything. And then there came a time when she got a phone of her own that her mother bought, and of course, I didn't have access to doing those controls. And her mom and us, we just weren't on the same page, and she wasn't willing to put those restrictions in place. So it was more of a, okay, well, you need to put your phone up here because today's Sunday and this is what we're doing. Um, yeah, it was another challenge, but it didn't stop us from still implementing our rule in our home. This is what we're doing on Sundays. So yeah, you have to do what works, and you're still entitled to parent the way that you want to in your home, even if the ex is parenting a different way, right? And that's not to say go out and try and do the opposite of what the other house is doing. It's just to remind you, like, you are welcome to parent the way you see fit in your home,
Mhm.
you know?
absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And Adrienne, I love that you said, because we do go through ages and stages with our kids, and when they're
Mhm.
younger, we do need to have those guardrails set for them, but then we do need to eventually let them
Yeah.
do a little bit of free range figuring life out on their own, but within those safety boundaries, and then we let those boundaries loose a little bit more, prepping them for, because they won't always be here. I've got three that have flown and grown many years now, and we tried our best to prepare them for handling those adult things, and did they always? Well, no, we had some mistakes along the way, but then, didn't we all? But again, it's that communication piece of them then knowing they can come back and talk to you about this. That's that building that
Mhm.
trust at the beginning that we talked about, like in Amelia, I think the setting the in our home rules, I don't see that that's a problem at all, because yeah, these kids, and I feel bad because they bounce from rules to rules to rules, back and forth from home to home,
They
but
do.
they also, and I can tell you this because I'm mom of adults now, they will come back and they will thank you for it. And they'll be like, I was so
Mhm.
mad at you to begin with, or when you were doing this, but now I understand. And then they become parents, and then you're like,
Mhm.
yeah, now you really
Parents,
get it,
yeah.
don't you?
So we're
Now you
gonna take
understand.
this audio clip and just have that reminder so we can put it out for everyone to hear when they need that reminder that this
Yes.
will all pay off. We're doing what's right for our kids, and they will
It's the
come back
long
and thank
game.
us.
Yes, it is the long game.
I love that. Oh my gosh, Amy, thank you so much. You've shared so many incredible insights and so much expertise on such a critical topic. I feel like we have so many takeaways between connect before correcting, talk time, a whiteboard parking lot,
Mhm.
stoplights and filters, and just so many wonderful tidbits and tips for us. Um, Before we leave today, would love you to share with our listeners where they can connect with you. Where can they find you? Where can they ask you questions or learn more about your blended family blueprint course?
Well, thank you. So my website is daretoparent.com. And that came back from a time when I started my business that parents were trying to be their kid's best friend and not actually parenting. So my challenge to them was daring you to parent and step in that role. So it's daretoparent.com. On my website, you'll find information about the Blended Family Blueprint, and I also offer one-off, just check-ins once in a while with couples if they just have a quick question for me. The other thing is, if you jump on and go to my contact page, you can book a free discovery call. It's a half hour of just me chatting with you and finding out where you're struggling with, and I can offer you a few tips here and there. And if you're interested and if we feel like a good match, we'll talk about moving forward. And if not, we've had a great conversation and you've walked away with a few strategies. I'm always happy to do that. I do work with couples. I do talk to stepdads and stepmoms individually, but I really feel like it's important to work with the couple for the work that I do, because it's all about building that family foundation together. Engaged and blending couples, they're really my target right now, because I want to give them that foundation as they start building their homes. So I'm also on Instagram under my name, Amy Ambrozich, and LinkedIn also. So I'm kind of here, there, and everywhere.
Love it, love it, love it. And I can tell you, if you do work with Amy, you will walk away filled with strategies. As you've heard some of them today, she's got many, many more in her toolkit.
Yeah, she's such a wonderful teacher. I love listening to you teach. You're just, yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that, ladies.
So we started with a little bit of fun, and we like to end with a little bit of fun. So Amelia, why don't you kick it off with rapid fire questions? We promise this will be easy, Amy. So don't panic.
It's easy. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Well, we've already answered the first one, coffee or tea.
Yep, I'm a water. Well, tea if it's a really cold winter day.
All right. And I think we've already answered the second one, early bird or night owl.
Crack of dawn before the sun.
Dogs or cats?
Ooh. Can I do both? But dogs more.
But dogs. Movie night or game night?
Ooh, movie night.
Oh, really? Okay. I
It
thought you were gonna pick game night.
Oh,
okay.
No, I love a good movie.
All right. Mountains or beach?
Beach, no doubt.
It's the warm weather that she's going for.
Yeah.
Amen.
Books or movies?
Ooh. Books.
Oh, so movie night, but books.
But books.
Mixing it up.
Yes. Yeah.
Pancakes or waffles?
Ooh. Pancakes.
Since you and I live in the same climate, I already know the answer to this. Summer or winter?
100% summer.
Sweet or savory?
Sweet.
And city life or countryside?
Ooh. Country. I'm a suburban girl, though. I was born and raised in the suburbs. I still live in the suburbs. But yeah, more country than New York is not my deal. Chicago's not my deal. Yeah, no, too busy.
Too many sounds.
Too much. Too much
many
input.
Lights.
Yes, too much everything. So yep.
That's so fun. It's great to get to know sides of you that even we haven't heard about before. So very neat. It's been so fun catching up with you. We appreciate you being on. And for anyone listening, if you're looking for more resources on communications and step families, we have a blog on our website, theartofblendedchaos.com. It's called Breaking Down Barriers, the Power of Communication in Step Families. And you can reach out to Amy at daretoparent.com to learn more. We'll be back with the next episode next week. Have a great afternoon.
All right. A quick disclaimer to cover our asses. The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed on today's episode are the speaker's own. So if you didn't like them, why didn't you turn us off sooner?
The material and information presented here is for general information purposes only. If you need support with a specific topic, you can do so by booking a one-on-one coaching call through our website, theartofblendedchaos.com. This podcast is not intended to replace professional, legal, or medical advice. You seriously didn't think we were lawyers or doctors, did you?